I know this may appear to cut against the grain. For example, the Trump executive order. Let's swerve in that direction here for just a second. The judge in Seattle, this judge by the name of Robart, who put a stay on the Trump executive order, was not a Republican judge. He was appointed by George W. Bush, but he was chosen by Patty Murray. He is an ardent leftist. He is a classic example of a judge who's actually a judicial activist who uses his position on the court to implement his own policy beliefs, not to sit there and judge or decide the law. And when he issued his ruling, he made some statements that have now been confirmed as untrue. Before I get to those, I want to give you another AP story, because this case is now at the Ninth Circuit, and it's being argued there at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. Now, the conventional wisdom about the Ninth Circuit is that it's the most liberal appellate circuit in the country, by far. It's so far left that that's why it's called the Ninth Circuit. And that Trump doesn't have a chance there. No Republican ever has a chance there because these people are so fringe, wacko leftist. And then you go to the Supreme Court, which now has 8 justices. It is presumed that this case, if it ever goes to the court, would end in a 4-4 tie, which is a big assumption because it assumes that Anthony Kennedy is going to find with President Trump. And if you do a search of Anthony Kennedy's decisions on issues related to this, you find that he's very concerned in cases where the judiciary gets trumped, so to speak. He doesn't like the idea that the judiciary, by statute, must defer to the executive branch when it comes to statutory law. And he has found in previous occasions in the past against the executive in immigration cases. So it's not a slam dunk that it would be 4-4. It's entirely possible that the Trump executive order case comes out of the Ninth Circuit with the original judge in Seattle affirmed and the stay on Trump's order then affirmed. Then it would go to the Supreme Court, and it could well be that it could be 5-3 anti-Trump, 5-3 opposed Trump, given what the proclivities of Justice Anthony Kennedy are. So the AP is out today with a story, and the headline is this: scholars say that the liberal reputation of the Ninth Circuit is overblown. Well, no, it's not. The liberal reputation of the Ninth Circuit is well-deserved. The liberal reputation, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, is right on the money. But AP is out now telling us that, no. That's overblown, the fact that the Ninth Circuit's a bunch of libs. They say this: the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, weighing the appeal concerning President Trump's executive order on immigration, is the federal appeals court conservatives have long ridiculed as the nutty Ninth or the Ninth Circus. The San Francisco-based court handles far more cases than any other federal appeals court, including some rulings that have invoked furor from conservatives over the years, among them finding that the phrase "under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance is unconstitutional. They literally did that. The United States Supreme Court, but the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is the most reversed court of appeals in Supreme Court history. That's another thing you need to know. They are reversed more than any other appellate circuit. And they were reversed in this, when they actually ruled that inserting "under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance was unconstitutional. But some legal scholars say the Ninth Circuit's liberal reputation is overblown, and the court has now moved to the middle, as some of President Jimmy Carter's appointees have taken semi-retired status or passed away. So why is the Associated Press trying to convince us that the Ninth Circuit isn't so liberal after all? Well, look at the logic here. From the article, it says this: Bush appointed 6 of the court's 25 active judges, but 18 have been appointed by the Democrats, though the 7 appointed by Obama are generally considered moderate. Now, that is just flat-out BS. Obama didn't put a moderate judge on any court anywhere. No Democrat puts a moderate on the court. That would be protest-worthy. The Democrats put activist leftist extremists on courts. But here's the AP telling us that the 7 judges that Obama placed at the Ninth Circuit are considered moderate. So you see, there really are only 6 Republican-appointed judges at the Ninth Circuit compared to the 18 appointed by Democrats, but the 7 judges Obama appointed are all moderates. And therefore, the court's not nearly as liberal as it used to be. And the purpose here, when the Ninth Circuit upholds the judge in Seattle, it's not going to be said because this is a bunch of liberals staying loyal to each. No, this is a bunch of moderates who are ruling on the law that President Trump's a wacko, insane lunatic and was off his rocker when he did this. That's why they write this story. So that the low-information crowd, the millennials that pick it up on Yahoo News, will believe the Ninth Circuit is just made up of intelligent, reasonable people, and they quickly found that Trump is a lunatic. I have news for you. Trump's executive order is entirely legal. I don't know. Some people might think they botched the implementation, the rollout, but it's entirely legal by virtue of statutory law. By that I mean there are statutes, federal statutes, laws passed by Congress, which grant the President of the United States this explicit power. Obama has used many of these statutory laws in executive orders on immigration. But back to the judge, Judge Robart. The federal judge who halted Trump's travel ban was wrong in stating that no one from the 7 countries targeted in Trump's order had been arrested for extremism in the United States since 2001. Now, this was one of the things originally reported. The judge, in his ruling, implied the president's a nutcase. I mean, he's got this ban on travel from these 7 countries, and we've never had anybody from these 7 countries arrested in this country. And the fact that you would even need to fact-check that to find the judge is wrong is a little bit disturbing. When Judge Robart said that the press should have laughed at this in his face, of course, they're never going to laugh at his face. Just last October, an Iraqi refugee living in Texas pleaded guilty to attempting to provide support to the Islamic State group ISIS, accused of taking tactical training and wanting to blow himself up in an act of martyrdom. In November, a Somali refugee injured 11 in a car and knife attack in Ohio State. He would have been arrested had he not been killed by an officer. There have been about a dozen Somali refugees in Minnesota arrested and convicted for extremism since 9/11. The AP reports some of this, but not nearly all of it. The point is the judge was wrong. Everybody's out there talking about what a doomcough Trump is and how he's ignorant and doesn't even know what he's doing, and they revel in this brilliant judge. The judge got fact after fact after fact wrong in his ruling, and his ruling didn't even rely on the law. And Breitbart has a story providing even more details the AP couldn't manage to admit in their fact-check article. Headline, Seattle judge ignorant about jihad convictions prior to imposing refugee reform ban. Now they're starting to get concerned. NPR, headline, what if something happens after judge's ruling on Trump's travel ban? And here's how the story begins. If a refugee commits a crime, will a federal judge have blood on his hands? President Trump says yes. After Judge James Robart temporarily blocked an executive order that stopped all refugees as well as visitors from 7 Muslim-majority countries, the president tweeted, "Who is Judge James L. Robart and why did he block Trump's immigration order? Can't believe a judge would put our country in such peril. If something happens, blame him and the court system. People pouring in. Bad." That's Trump's tweet. So now the left is all at Twitter. Well, they're all worried because Trump raised an important point. The judges out there say, we have anything to worry about. We've never had any people from these 7 countries arrested for anything when it's not been demonstrably proved not true. So if an act of terrorism happens by somebody that snuck into the country because the judge stayed the order, will blood be on his hands? The left is trying to say, no way, not possible. It's all going to be Trump's fault. But they can't. Washington Post has even picked this up. If something happens, Trump points his finger in case of a terrorist attack. President Trump appears to be laying the groundwork to preemptively shift blame for any future terror attack on America from his administration to the federal judiciary as well. He's not shifting anything. He's not laying the groundwork. He's pointing something out. The president took steps that he promised he would take during his campaign to engage in a much tighter vetting of refugees and illegal immigrants pouring into the country, particularly from Islamic Jihad nations. And a federal judge stayed the order, shut it down. The federal judge, by the way, does not have the authority that he used to do this. Even so, Alan Dershowitz said that the president could have ignored this order and kept his order operative. But Alan Dershowitz said that Trump has apparently too much respect for the judiciary to treat them that way. But this judge didn't even make a legal ruling. He presumed to know the president's state of mind. He presumed to know what the president's intentions were. And that's where we get into the gray area. The judge basically saying that the president was engaging in a religious ban. And he wasn't. This is about safety. It's about vetting people who might have ill intentions. It's not about banning religious people, which we can do too if we want to, but that's not what this is. So it's being argued at the Ninth Circuit now. And we'll see what happens there. The odds are that Judge Robart will be upheld, and then we'll make fast tracks to the Supreme Court, where all bets are off. It's 4-4, unless Kennedy joins the Judge Robart crowd, in which case, well, it'll be fascinating to see what happens if the Supreme Court stays the stay, confirms the stay. Meanwhile, demonstrators and protesters, in their own words, anti-Trump resistance leaders say they want to make America ungovernable. Behind the mass protests, choreographed chants, and acts of violence, leaders of anti-Trump resistance efforts are communicating the same simple but dark message. They want to make America ungovernable for the President of the United States. Now, I want to raise an observation with you. Who is it constantly whining and moaning and caterwauling about gridlock? The media, the Democrat Party. They're always complaining when the Republicans try to bollocks up an Obama agenda item, or when the Republicans refuse to act fast on a piece of legislation the media and the Democrats want. They accuse them of gridlock. Here comes the sum total of these resistance protesters saying that's exactly, we're going to make this whole country come to a screeching halt. We're going to make sure that you can't govern. And they're applauding it. Right on, right. Now, I know I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy, even though I know the hypocrisy never sticks to them. But someday it's going to. Someday all this stuff is going to come home to roost, and I think we're in the beginning stages of this kind of behavior. Finally, see, right now they're not paying a price for this. That's why they keep doing it. They're not paying a price, but that they are going to be paying a price for this down the road. Actually, they are paying a price, folks. They're losing elections all over this country. Be right back to your calls after this.